like to ask Kurt Miller to give us a brief legislative update. And
okay,
then Chris,
Mr. Miller.
Legal.
And this is you've gotten a late edition or late amended version of the legislative update dated January 26 for your packet.
No buttons to push on this one. Perfect. Morning, folks. While the topic is still fresh in your mind, let me just make one comment about Chapter 9 et al. The Chapter 9 draft that is in the current fifth draft was written in August based on estimations for fiscal year 11-12 spending. The crosscut is based on fiscal year 12-13 proposals. So even if you had the same format for each display, you'd have different numbers. So in any event, the new version of Chapter 9 proposes to include cross-cut data that matches up with our current budget and proposed budget. So the data should match. It'll also include a whole host of other information and data about pricing and costs and budgets and things like that. So it's a work in progress. Let me start with legislation briefly. It's going to be a quiet year in the water legislation field because most of the activity in the legislature will be on the budget this year. And being an election year, that'll temper things even more in the policy area. In the last month, a couple of bills of interest to you folks failed passage and are now officially no longer with us.
Mention what they are, please.
I am. Ms. Huber's Delta oversight bill failed in policy committee in early January. And Mr. Jeffrey's proposal to ramp down the water bond by 25% failed also. So as we speak, the water bond is still on the ballot in its current form. It would take a 2/3 vote to amend it, remove from the ballot, or reschedule it. So there it sits for now.
And gossip and rumors on inside views of what the governor and the legislative leaders are thinking on that question?
Nope. The governor has said he's not crazy about it, and that's all I heard from the public.
I can
comments.
add that there is an effort by some parties to see if they could come up with a consensus rework of the bond so they could keep it on the ballot this year, and they're going to try in the next 60 days to see if they could come up with those amendments. It's a difficult process, though, as Kurt said, so I don't have really high hopes, but there is a serious effort to try and do that.
And the ostensible practical deadline is the date beyond which you cannot hold absentee ballots to go to military veterans, is my recollection, which is probably sometime in August.
Well, the Secretary of State would say early July for her purposes.
They always do.
The actual on-the-ground historical stretch has always been into August. That's true. By the time they adjourn this year, which is August 30th, so session ends then. And also I've been told that there'll be no effort to pursue a water fee bill this year for the author, that Mr. Smitty, who had his bill last year. They are going to sit tight for this session. I might add just some points about the budget itself. Joe mentioned our micro interests in our budgets and agency budgets that we're working with. On the overall scheme of things, the governor's budget is working with a deficit of $9.2 billion for the coming fiscal year. That includes a carryover structural deficit of $5.1 billion and a cash deficit of $4.1 just on current year inflows and outflows, and imbalance totaling 9.2. Now, overhanging these numbers is the debt load that the state has incurred in borrowing and deferring payments in the last 5-6 years, and that number is posted at $33 billion in the governor's budget that was released early this month. So that's quite an overhang. The biggest portion of that money is owed to the Prop 98 funds, which when they reduce Prop 98 guarantee year after year, the difference from what it should have been is carried over to future years, and that money is owed to school districts and the the junior colleges. So that's the nature of that beast, and they'll be spending many, many hours. I suspect they'll have a budget done probably on time end of June. It'll probably be underfunded, but given the magnitude of the problem, there's just no way to force revenues into the coffers in time to start ramping it down by July 1st, which takes us to the point where the governor wishes to put a ballot measure on the November ballot to raise taxes and make some fee adjustments, so some revenues will come in to help with the problem. That concludes my remarks.
Questions of Mr. Miller? Randy? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.